Saturday mornings are my version of quiet. The streets are still yawning, the sky's barely done stretching, and I'm already pushing a cart through the same old grocery aisle at the corner store. I nod at Carol, the cashier I've seen every week for the past 5 years. She always comments on the bananas I buy, too green or too soft, and I always say I like them that way just to keep her smiling. Someone's planning a smoothie party, she teased, scanning the bagged spinach. Or I'm just trying to convince myself I'm healthier than I really am, I replied, and we both laughed. I didn't mind the routine. At 35, I'd gotten used to being the youngest in a family that rarely looked back once they moved forward. I never married, never left Fresno, and became the kind of daughter who shows up for hospital visits and fixes cable remotes without asking for much in return. I wasn't bitter, at least I told myself I wasn't. My birthday was a week away, no grand plans, no expectations. Just hoping for peace, maybe a text, maybe a slice of cake someone forgot to write my name on. My family had a funny way of showing love, loud during emergencies, silent during celebrations. I once joked, they always say they love me, just not out loud or on the calendar. That joke's never landed with anyone but me. Around noon, I was lugging a bag of cat litter to Mrs. Feldman's porch. She's 82 and calls me her spare granddaughter. I'd barely set the bag down when my phone buzzed. "So excited for your party next week," the text read. It was from Lisa, a friend from church who uses exclamation points like their oxygen. I frowned. "What party?" I typed back. A few seconds later, she sent a screenshot. It was a digital invitation. Gold and cream, floral borders, cursive font. "Family celebration for Ava," it read. No details, no indication of whose party it really was. Just a date and a location I recognized, my parents' house. I checked my inbox. Nothing. Not a peep, not even in spam. The silence felt smoky, like walking into a room that smells like something's burning, but the alarms haven't gone off yet. I stood there for a moment, the sun too bright on the screen, the bag of cat litter still at my feet. It wasn't just the invite, it was the weight behind it. I went back home, mind spinning slowly like laundry on the low cycle. Sat on the couch and stared at my ceiling fan. I'd seen this pattern before. Birthdays forgotten, plans made without me. I remembered my 30th, no one called. I ended up baking my own cake. My brother had a catered bash for graduating community college. My sister had a bridal shower with bride-to-be balloons and a mimosa bar. I had silence. One year they called me to take pictures for Dad's retirement party. I took dozens, not one of me. Maybe I'm just sensitive, I muttered. Maybe they didn't mean to leave me out. That's what you say when you've spent years convincing yourself that being hurt isn't worth the trouble, that peace is easier than pride, that silence is safer than honesty. I picked up my phone and dialed my mom. She answered on the third ring, her voice light and airy. "Hey, honey, everything okay?" I smiled like I meant it. "Just checking. Anything I should dress up for next weekend?" There was a pause, not long but long enough. "Oh, she said vaguely. "Just a little get-together. Nothing big. You don't need to worry about it." That sentence hit me harder than I expected. You don't need to worry. It echoed, not just in my ears, in my ribs, my gut. All the parts of me that had learned to absorb the ache and keep breathing. I swallowed hard. "Cool," I said. "Let me know if you need anything." I hung up. The silence after a lie is never empty. It's heavy. Of course, I won't need to worry. Because I was never meant to be part of it. I wandered into the living room. The box labeled party supplies sat in the corner, still dusty. I bought those decorations for Mom's birthday 3 years ago. She said not to make a fuss, so I didn't. I opened my laptop and found the invitation again. The RSVP count had gone up, 58 guests, cousins, aunts, people I'd babysat as a teenager. Every name was familiar, except mine. I stared at the screen, no blinking, no crying, just still. That's the moment when clarity doesn't come with thunder. It comes quiet, like the click of a door locking behind you. The morning light hit my living room in that slow, apologetic way it does on Sundays. I'd slept lightly, my thoughts stuck somewhere between anger and surrender. The invitation was still open on my laptop, like it was waiting for me to refresh it again, as if that would somehow add my name to the list. Instead, I opened a new tab and looked up the catering company listed on the bottom of the invite. I figured if I couldn't get answers from my family, maybe someone else could offer me clarity. The woman who answered sounded young, cheerful. I told her my name, said I was hoping to offer help with logistics for the upcoming event. There was a pause on the other end of the line. "Are you a guest or working staff?" I let out a nervous laugh. "Neither. I'm related to the family hosting it." "Okay," she said, still unsure. "Can I get your name again?" I spelled it for her, slowly, clearly. There was more clicking, more silence. Then she said, "You're actually listed here as a +1 under someone else. No title, just guest. That's unusual." Unusual. I thanked her, hung up, and stared at the floor. It wasn't just that I wasn't mentioned, it was that I'd been slotted in like an afterthought, like a coat someone wasn't sure would match the room. Some people aren't uninvited, they're just never really meant to be there. I sat on the couch, feeling every inch of it against my skin. The cushions I bought with my own paycheck, the apartment I maintained alone, the life I built without applause, all of it. Too quiet. And yet the silence said more than words ever could. I found myself drifting back to small memories, like that time at my niece's baptism, when the church bulletin listed everyone in the family except me. My sister said it was a printing error. My mother shrugged and said I shouldn't take it personally, so I didn't. At least not out loud. I opened my messages and typed to Venus. "Hey, random question. Do you know who's organizing this whole party?" The message showed read within seconds. No reply. I typed again. "Just curious." Nothing. I could almost feel her watching the message fade into irrelevance on her screen. That's the thing about silence. It's rarely empty. It's layered, designed. A wall that looks like air until you walk straight into it. I wasn't being forgotten. I was being blurred out. And once you notice it, you start seeing the whole pattern. All the little ways you've been edited out of your own story. Around noon, my cousin Rachel texted me out of the blue. She'd always been the sweet one, always walking the tightrope between loyalty and decency. "Hey Ava, saw your name on the planning sheet. Thought it was weird. Here's what I found." She sent a screenshot from a shared Google Doc. Event notes, logistics, seating chart. Beside my name, a line typed in red, "Move to guest list, not at head table." No speech slot. I read it once, then again. I stared until the words burned into my mind. Not at head table, no speech slot. I laughed once, sharp and sudden. Then I felt the sting in my eyes, but I didn't cry. Not for this, not for them. I sat still, let the burn pass, then breathed out, slowly. This won't break me, but I won't let it go either. Not this time. I didn't call anyone. Didn't text. I started watching instead. Quietly. I found the public RSVP thread online. Open comments. A mistake someone made while setting up the site. People were excited, buzzing. Can't wait to see Venus take the spotlight again. Love when this family gets together. Always a show. Venus. Again. I kept scrolling. It was all about her. Not a word about me. That's when the realization landed. Not with drama, but with certainty. This wasn't sloppy. It was structure. It wasn't neglect. It was design. And I'd spent too long calling it anything else. I shut my laptop. The sun had shifted. Afternoon light now spilling through the blinds, soft and gold. I walked to the bathroom, stared into the mirror. No mascara, no lipstick, just me. "Let them throw the party," I said aloud. "Let them look around when I'm not there." I picked up my phone, found the calendar reminder, and deleted it. No fanfare, no ceremony, just a clean, deliberate silence. The sun was barely up when I drove past the florist on Tuesday, the air crisp enough to wake something I'd been sleeping through. I stopped by to pick up a bouquet of orchids I'd paid for weeks ago, my contribution, since no one had asked. The door jingled when I entered, scent of soil and flowers thick, comforting even as my chest felt tight. I lingered at the counter, paying, when I heard voices from the back room. Aunts, one of them with the laugh I've heard 100 times but never felt included in. My heart thudded, not loud, but present. One voice said, "You know how Ava is, always taking things too personally." The laugh echoed, soft. Then, "That's why they didn't put her up front. No drama this year." I froze. I clutched the orchids harder. I could feel the petals trembling. I didn't step in. I didn't interrupt. The mockery disguised as family concern let me believe this was once again a misunderstanding. But hearing it, this time in my own body, cut deeper than any silence. Back at home, my hands were shaking. I floated through the afternoon, tidying the kitchen, pretending I didn't just hear something meant to keep me unseen. My phone buzzed. My cousin forwarded a group chat message by mistake. My mother, Venus, others. The words were blunt. "Let's keep Venus front and center. Ava will be fine without the spotlight." Someone had added a laughing emoji. Someone else heart-reacted it. I stared so long at that message that the screen burned into my vision. My absence was not accidental. It was planned. I felt anger, yes, but something sharper, clarity. The kind that makes you stand straighter even when your knees want to buckle. I deleted items off my party prep checklist. Outfit ideas, hair appointments, gifts. Each item I removed felt like lifting a weight. I remembered times I apologized first, even when I'd been ignored, even when I didn't deserve that apology. I remembered voices telling me I was too emotional, too sensitive, too much. Those words felt like chains I accepted too long. Late that night, I pulled out old photos, clipped them from albums, birthdays, showers, graduations. I found one where I was cropped out, just my shadow at the edge of the frame. I held it, looked at it, then curled my fingers around the picture and set it aflame in the porch fire pit. Just a bit of smoke, the crackle of paper, the light fading. Closure doesn't need an audience. When I was done, I stood by the window, glass cool under my palms. I called the venue, anonymous, calm. Asked about the head count, speech slots, waiting for something I knew they'd say. They confirmed, no speech for me, no mic. The event order already printed. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I just thanked them. I closed the phone, sat with the orchids on my kitchen counter, moonlight and lamplight mixing. I thought maybe forgiveness was a luxury I'd postponed. But resentment, real resentment, was a burden. I stayed silent because anger often breaks louder than words. But this time, silence felt like safety and strength. It was just past 5 on Friday when I pulled into the driveway of my childhood home. The breeze had cooled, but the inside of me hadn't. I'd texted my mom earlier. "Want to have coffee out back?" Neutral ground. Safer that way. She replied with a thumbs up. She met me in the yard like nothing had happened. Smiled, even. The same smile she used when I scraped my knees as a kid, and she said, "You're fine." Only now, I wasn't 7, and I wasn't fine. I poured coffee for both of us, sat down slow. "I'm not here to argue," I started. But I heard what was said. I saw the messages. This isn't in my head. She blinked, stirred her coffee like she didn't hear me. "You always take things so personally, Ava. This isn't about you." "It was a conversation about me," I said flatly, "and a party where I'm being treated like a footnote." Her voice lifted, defensive. "It's just a party. Why make it bigger than it is?" "Because it wasn't about the party." "Because it was never just the party." "I'm not making it bigger," I told her. "I'm seeing it clearly." She shrugged. "You've always been dramatic. Sensitive. You read too much into everything." It was strange, watching someone rewrite your pain like it was gossip. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't apologize either. The conversation didn't get loud. It just got smaller. Like I wasn't worth discussing. She looked at her watch. "Are we done?" I nodded. "Yeah, we're done." I left the mug on the table and walked out the gate. Didn't hug her. Didn't ask her to understand. If you have to beg someone to see you, they've already decided they won't. I sat in my car for 10 minutes before even starting the engine. Fingers white on the steering wheel, chest tight. I wanted to scream, but all I did was breathe. When someone hurts you and laughs when you say it hurts, I whispered to myself, that's not miscommunication. That's design. I drove around for a bit before heading back to my place. Didn't want to be around anyone yet. At home, I pulled out an old folder, cards I'd saved, emails I'd printed over the years. I read my own words, how often I said, sorry if I upset you, over and over, even when I wasn't the one who forgot birthdays or missed graduations. That night, I joined family dinner like nothing had happened. The table was loud, party chatter, menu tweaks, centerpiece debates. Venus looked up from her phone. Don't forget to show up on time, she said, half laughing. The centerpieces depend on it. I didn't blink. If I feel respected, I'll be there. The room froze. Forks paused midair. My dad cleared his throat, changed the subject like he was flipping a channel. No one circled back to what I said, but they all heard it. Later that night, I got a message from Aunt June. You okay? You seemed different. I typed, just tired. Things will be clearer soon. Then deleted it. Let her wonder. I glanced at my overnight bag, still packed from my last work trip. I hadn't unpacked it for a reason. I opened my journal, wrote one line. They think I'm bluffing. Then I made a quiet list on my phone. Who to contact if I bowed out, which gifts could be returned, when to call the venue if I pulled the plug. Not revenge, just preservation. And I imagined their faces, not because I didn't show up for attention, but because they'd finally see what it meant when I didn't show up at all. The phone rang just as the sun broke through the curtains. Daniel, my brother, voice softer than usual. Mom's willing to let you introduce Venus tomorrow, he said, like it was a favor he was giving me. I paused, coffee cooling in my hand. Introduce Venus? I asked. My own name left out. He cleared his throat. Yeah, that is, she wants you to say a few words. Just a little speech to smooth things over. A speech for someone else. A loaned microphone. A patch over all the holes. I thanked him. Hung up. I looked around my living room. Ornaments I'd dusted. Books I'd never been asked to show. Photos where I'm always at the side. That last-minute speech sounded like a Band-Aid on a broken leg. By mid-morning, I found myself driving to the family house. The lawn looked overgrown. The banner printing press was running. Centerpieces stacked like trophies. Venus moment in gold cursive ribbon across the table. I stood at the porch, bag at my side. Mom came out. Glad you're here, she said. Can you help fold the programs? Her voice was courtesying that didn't reach her eyes. I shook my head. No thanks. I won't stay long, I said softly. She blinked. She looked surprised, as if politeness had left the leash. We sat in the kitchen, old sun through the windows. I cleared my throat. If I had said nothing all week, would you have remembered me? I asked. Voice steady. Silence. Just the hum of refrigerator. Mom's hands folded in her lap. Dad in the doorway, unannounced. Venus lingering just outside the frame. Probably not, she said finally, like admitting a thought she wished she didn't have. Venus stepped in. I can share the stage, she offered, unsteady. You can say something if you want. I wanted to shout, to rip up the stage, the charts, the plans, but instead I smiled, a careful one. No need, I said. You've earned this moment. I just won't be part of it. My tone quiet, not loud, not bitter, just done. They stared at me like I'd renamed the sun. Mom's mouth opened. Dad looked away. Venus's eyes flicked with confusion. Expected drama, expected tears, expected pleading, got none. I pulled a small box from my bag, wrapped it in tissue months ago. For Mom, I said. I think it still is. I handed it over. My fingers brushed hers, and then I turned and left. Not angry, not crying, just clear. I drove away in mid-afternoon light. The road stretched, lines splitting in the heat haze. I didn't know where I was going exactly, just away from the noise. At a small diner off Highway 99, I ordered coffee and pie. The check came, I left a tip. Didn't want to feel guilty. Didn't want to feel like I'd lost something. Only that I'd chosen myself. Phone buzzed. My family group thread. Where are you? Messages. I read them, then set the phone down. No reply. Not yet. I stared out the window at barbed wires and fields. Thought of how long I carried their approval like a weight. How easy it would have been to accept the scrap they offered me. I pushed the napkin aside, felt something shift, lightness. Something that had been buried too long rising. They can keep the spotlight. I choose not to be in its glare. I woke up in the rented guest house Sunday morning feeling hollow. The air smelled like pine and rain. Outside the window, birds called each other, unaware how loud a quiet heart can feel. I made coffee slowly, hoping warmth would settle the unrest in my chest. But it didn't. I scrolled through social media, reluctant, trying to avoid pain. Then I saw them. Photos from last night's party. Cake cutting, music, laughter. Venus in front, radiant. My name never mentioned. My face never tagged. Closeness treated like an option I'd forfeited by staying silent. Then the video came. A friend sent it in a private message. I watched myself in the background, smiling for the camera, but isolated. Then a mic. My mother's voice. There she goes again, making it about her. Venus laughed. Aunt Lucy snickered. My mother's chuckle cracked through the clip. My heart like ice in the sun. It wasn't mistake. It was a vote. They all voted on the narrative without me knowing. Later, Aunt Carolyn texted me, voice trembling through words. They never planned for you. I told them it was wrong. She said Diane said I was too sensitive anyway. I held the phone. I let her confession sink. Not guilt, not relief, just something heavier. Vindication. I whispered in the shower later, water pouring, skin cold. I was never even in the circle. I was just orbiting. The tiles didn't echo tears, just realization. That afternoon, I wrote a letter I never meant to send. I poured every small moment of erasure into it. Birthday cards lost, announcements without my name, photos I corrected in my mind. I reread an old quote by Maya Angelou. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. I printed it and pinned it to my luggage suitcase, something I carry when I'm traveling. That object felt heavier now, a reminder. By evening, I was drafting plans. Close shared accounts would get closed. I'd update phone number, address. I booked a small speaking event in a town 2 counties away, a place where they didn't know my name, didn't expect me to be silenced. I didn't tell family. It wasn't showy. It was necessary. The hours passed, sun dipped behind hills. I packed a small bag. Not for revenge, but for escape. Not running from them, redirecting my energy to where someone sees me. My phone buzzed just as I was about to sleep. A subject line. Important message for you. I stared at it long before opening. I knew whatever came next could shatter what I'd built tonight, or build it stronger. I arrived at the rehearsal venue just as the sun dipped low, the sky bruising toward dusk. The stage was set, lights rigged, chairs arranged in neat rows, microphones dangling like silent judges. I paused at the edge of the room, my heart insisting I might finally get a chance to be heard. They hadn't labeled the podium. Nothing said, "Ava speaks here." I watched Venus walk in, practiced smile already forming, surrounded by helpers adjusting her dress. The planner glanced at me. They always do. My throat tightened. I offered a polite nod. Maybe, just maybe, tonight they'd make it right. Then the planner cleared his throat mid-sound check and asked, loud enough for half the room, "So, Ava, will you be speaking tomorrow?" I felt every eye flicker, and Venus's mother pressed her lips together. My chest constricted. My voice came out steady. I was told no role beyond guest. Planner tried to soften it. "It's just logistics," he said, voice slipping. But there, on the wall behind him, I saw rehearsal drafts pinned. My name wasn't listed among speakers, not even marginal notes. It stunned me, that proof. It meant debate wasn't open. It meant political theater, where I was never intended to have a part. I left the room, walked down the hallway where the air smelled of polish and scripts, took the route through the backyard gate toward my parents' house, light fading, shadows long. In Mom's study, I found it. An envelope with my name, dusty, pushed behind books. I recognized my own handwriting. It was a letter I wrote 2 years ago, for my birthday, telling them how I felt invisible, always last chosen, always the one apologizing first. "Dear Mom," it started, "I feel unseen." I opened it. Pages crisp. No reply, no signature, no comment. Just my words, waiting. Grief rose fast. Betrayal slogged behind it. But then clarity, the kind that burns off excuses. Later, I called Merritt. We met at a coffee shop. Loud enough for eavesdroppers, small enough for shame. I held the unsent letter. I showed him the schedule. I asked, "If family is supposed to love, why do I feel invisible?" He stiffened. "It's not like that," he said. "We didn't mean to." "Don't mean to," I said. "Don't get to. Because then it's always your choice not to include." His eyes dropped. He tried to reach for words, but only silence followed. I walked out in dusk, dirt paths, distant traffic. I felt something I hadn't in years. Not anger, not resignation, something like ownership. Tomorrow, I will decide whether I'll step up to the mic or stay out of the spotlight altogether. Morning light spilled into my car like it was trying to wake something inside me. I dressed quietly, no makeup, just clean clothes, a sweater over my shoulders. I was already awake before my alarm, knowing what this day might ask of me. I pulled out the speech notes I'd written, read the first line. For the first time, I was proud to be their daughter. I crumpled the paper. What did pride matter when I wasn't given a place to speak? I drove to the venue, parked a block away, pastel dresses, laughter, umbrellas shading tables, guests weaving toward the entrance. The banner above read, "Venus's Vision, a Celebration." I stepped toward the door, my chest tight. I looked at the usher. He asked, "Name, please?" I said, "It doesn't matter." I walked past, didn't go in. Instead, I found a garden bench behind the building, dews on petals, water reflecting sky. I pulled out my journal and wrote, "I used to think love meant showing up. Now I know it means not losing yourself in the process." The bench felt steady. Time stretched. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. Just sat. Let the calm warmth settle in where bitterness once lived. Then I heard footsteps. A voice soft. "Ava?" It was Ellie. Cousin. Not someone who's ever called me out before. But she left the party to join me here. She sat beside me, quietly. She wore a dress, her hair done, but she looked like someone who'd dragged her heart out to breathe. "I didn't want to be in there," she said. She paused. "I didn't like what they did to you." I nodded. She offered me a sandwich, wrapped in foil. Tiny gesture. I accepted. The taste of cheese and bread felt like home. We talked about the small moments, greeting cards, what wasn't said at family dinners, watching photos where we smiled but didn't belong. Ellie said, "I kept quiet my whole life. You gave me courage today." I looked at her, really looked. I felt something shift, a warmth in my spine, as if I was reclaiming something broken. I pulled out my phone, found the planner's contact, typed a message. "I won't be speaking, but I've said more today than I ever could on stage." I deleted the saved speech, unsubscribed from family group messages. Ellie smiled. "Want to grab pancakes instead?" "Let's make a new tradition," I said, and I meant it. We walked away from the entrance. Quietly, hand in hand, more in spirit than in touch. I felt lighter. Their celebration was inside, their lights and music. Mine was this sunrise, this brotherhood in silence, this knowing I didn't need their spotlight to be real. Suddenly, the phone buzzed in my purse. A voicemail. Mother's voice. I froze. Fingertips trembling. I sat on the edge of my bed, phone in my palm, screen glowing in the dark, like it knew something I didn't. One voicemail. From her. I hesitated, then pressed play. Her voice came through, fragile, like stepping onto a frozen pond. She didn't say my name right away, just started talking like she had practiced this in her mind a dozen times, but never out loud. "I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I need to say this before I lose the nerve." A pause. I didn't breathe. That celebration, it was originally meant to honor your sister. We started planning it that way. I never changed the intention, even after all these years. And I never told you because I didn't think you could handle it. I sat frozen. She went on. I pulled away from you because your strength scared me. After your sister died, I just didn't know how to keep going with both of you. And when you started building a life without us, I figured maybe you didn't need me anymore. Her voice cracked at the end. I'm sorry. For the silence. For the distance. I was grieving one daughter. And I didn't know how to be a mother to the one still standing. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just sat there. All this time, I thought her silence was rejection. Turns out, it was grief. Her guilt dressed up in coldness. I turned the phone face down and reached for my journal. My fingers moved before I could even think about what I was writing. I spent so many years building walls to keep the pain out, not realizing I was keeping the healing out too. I wrote that twice. Maybe it needed to be said more than once. I scribbled a list, what I was grateful for. Ellie, for showing up. The quiet garden. The sound of my own voice. Steady and sure, even when no one was listening. I flipped a page. Maybe I wasn't unloved. Maybe they just didn't know how to love me right. And for the first time, I believed that wasn't just a line. It was a truth I could live with. I didn't call her back. Instead, I recorded a voice message. I heard what you said. Thank you for telling me. No explanation needed. No confrontation. Some people need space to grow. And some bridges. You just stand beside them and wave. You don't have to cross. That night, I took down the family pictures from my hallway, all but one. Me and Ellie, kids, arms around each other at a county fair, smiling like the world hadn't taught us anything yet. I rearranged my living room, moved furniture, added a new plant, something alive, something mine. I looked around. It wasn't about cutting them out. It was about making room for something new. Sunday morning, Ellie and I met at the little diner on Belmont. No pity in her eyes, just ease. She said, "Let's start that book club. I'm serious." I smiled. "And maybe a road trip up the coast? We'll build our own damn traditions," she laughed, and just like that, the weight eased. Later that week, I signed up to volunteer at a women's support center downtown. I didn't go in to talk about my story. I went to listen. Not everyone needs your pain. Sometimes they just need you to sit with theirs. That night, I wrote one last line in my journal. I'm not the woman who canceled the party. I'm the one who saved herself. I looked in the mirror. No tears. Just stillness. I scrolled through my contacts, skipped the family group chat, started a new one, titled it, The Life I Choose. And that was enough.